Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 25, verses 31 and 46. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand, and the goats at his left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." Matthew 25 is so important in my life. So with a firm push from the Holy Spirit, here I am today. When you donate money to the discretionary fund, that's money that the church has given Pastor Peter discretion to use to help members of the church or others who come to Pilgrim but are not members. These are people who are facing extreme need. Pastor Peter does this working together with Mike and Janice Bowling in the office, and Birch Pinckney and Judy Packett. And the primary items that the church uses discretionary fund monies for are to buy gas cards for people who can't afford the gas to work, or bus tokens, and also gift cards for food from Wendy's. The next most common thing that the discretionary fund gets used for is to help people pay with or pay their co-pays on their prescription medicines. But discretionary fund money has been used in other circumstances too, things that have been unique to a particular person or family. We've had the situation when a family needed help paying their rent due to a financial emergency one month, and when a disabled veteran needed a cell phone to be able to connect with the myriad of social services that he needed to connect with to access his benefits and find a place to live. With a lot of social service agencies whose staff has already been overworked and now has been cut even further, with a lot of these agencies, all you can do is try to call them. Did you know that? They won't let you just show up. They're not equipped for it. And when you actually manage to get through to somebody on the phone, they're typically going to say that they'll have someone get back to you and schedule an appointment, or arrange for whatever it is that you need. But if you don't have a phone number or an address where you live, how are they going to get back to you? I mean, how is that even going to work? But I digress. Matthew 25, I think, is one of the most powerful and important passages of the Bible. "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? When was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you?" And Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, just as you did to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." It's one of the passages I think about a lot in my day-to-day life, but my reading of it has changed over the years. I used to think of this passage as kind of a warning that if I saw a beggar or a homeless person or just somebody in need, I'd better treat them nice, because at any time, any one of them might need Jesus. Essentially masquerading as that homeless person just to test me. I wouldn't know which one was Jesus, but any one of them might be. And I wouldn't want to fail the test. But in fact, There's a phrase in Matthew 25 that I didn't give proper attention to, that I almost didn't even notice, not until I was older and had more experiences with different people. And I'm not going to tell you what that phrase was. Well, not yet. First, I want to tell you about our friend Drexel here at church, who over the years has become like a little brother to me in a lot of ways. Here's how I first met him, and I just told him a moment ago that I'm going to be talking about. So, one Sunday, I was out in the hall, and I saw him sitting outside the sanctuary, and I asked why he wasn't inside. And he told me he had come to ask Pastor Peter for help because he needed to do his laundry. And for that, he needed about $20. Because he was going to do his laundry as well as a friend's, and he needed to buy the detergent and the fabric softener and the bleach, plus he needed to travel there by bus. $20. I was skeptical. So I responded with a little maneuver that I had learned through my volunteer work over the years. How about, I said, how about Mike and I take you to your apartment so you can get your laundry, and then we'll drive you to the laundromat. Well, he said, I don't know if my friend's going to have his stuff ready yet. Okay, why don't you call him right now from the church? Let him know you're getting a ride to the laundromat and he should get his stuff ready. And so Drexel did call his friend and told him just that. And so Mike and I drove Drexel to his apartment, and sure enough, Drexel went inside and promptly came out with heaps and heaps, bags and baskets of dirty laundry. And this is when I first learned just how big a job it is when Drexel does laundry. I consider Drexel a friend, and like I said, kind of a little brother. He tells me about his family and some of his troubles and dramas, and I tell him about mine. He acts silly sometimes and cracks me up. Or he does other stuff that I just have to shake my head at, or that I worry about. But all little brothers are like that. Sometimes your brother doesn't make the decisions you think he should, but you still love him with all your heart. You may have noticed Drexel hasn't been to church on Sunday morning so much recently because his new apartment is too far away to walk, and the bus doesn't run early enough on Sundays to get him here. But I know how important it's been for him to be part of this community here at Pilgrim. And I think you can tell, too, by how many other people he's brought here with him over the years. And by the way, he was so excited and has been so happy with all the really lovely items that people from Pilgrim have given him for his new apartment. There's another man who I've gotten to know who was in the Army many years. And now he struggles with a lot of health issues. You know how I mentioned how hard it is for a person to get help from social services agencies without a phone? Well, this guy wasn't looking for any handouts, but it was just heartbreaking to see all the struggles and frustrations that he was going through, all the bureaucracy. He had temporarily lost access to his disability benefits, and he had lost his apartment. So I went with them to a store down the road that sells cheap cell phones and prepaid minutes, and we used some of the money that you here at Pilgrim contribute to the discretionary fund to get him a phone. And as we were there in the store, I wondered what the salesman thought about the two of us there, why I was there and using my credit card. And I thought, I hope the salesman thinks that I'm this dear man's sister, or maybe his father. My mom lived in Indiana, and she died just about a year and a half ago. She was confined to a wheelchair for many years, and for the last year or so of her life, she got Meals on Wheels delivered to her home. I always felt comforted that she was getting Meals on Wheels because she lived alone, and I know how difficult cooking was for her. Members of Pilgrim deliver Meals on Wheels to people here in Lansing, to other people's mothers. They do it quietly and efficiently, every day. I don't know if you realize this, but there are people all over Lansing who feel the comfort of being part of our Pilgrim family. Some of them are people you know and recognize, and some of them are not. But they know Pilgrim, and they know that God is here for them through Pilgrim. And this brings me to the part of this passage in Matthew 25 that I had overlooked first. If you look at verse 40, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these, who are members of my family, you did it to me." In Matthew 25, Jesus wasn't warning us to be on the lookout, that he would be putting us to the test by putting hungry or needy people around us and then watching how we respond. He was telling us that all these people are members of his family, that he is in them and they are part of him, the same as us. We are all the same family. When someone out there is hungry or sick, I think Jesus was saying that it hurts him, and it hurts us too, because we're all connected. One of the things that makes me particularly sad is when I see someone who feels so much like a stranger to the church that they're uncomfortable even coming into the building. Or they come inside, but they won't enter the sanctuary. I think that's a big part of the reason why I've gotten more active with Mike in being an outspoken Christian ally to the LGBT community. It makes me sad to think that there's this big group of people out there who have been so ostracized, so beat up by churches in the past, and just for who they are, that they're now leery, afraid to come, to even set foot in the church. I hear Jesus saying in Matthew 25 that all these people, these strangers needing welcome, are also members of his family. And so they're members of our family too. What you provide here at Pilgrim, all of you who perform the music and prepare the communion and make sure the temperature's right in the building, all of you who greet and make banana bread for and even hug every person of every age that comes here on Sunday mornings, what you provide here is Matthew 25's welcome to the stranger. In my own life, I have found out that when I actually get to know a person, when I go to their house or help them pick out a piece of furniture or hear how their mom's doing, I find out that they are, well, just a regular person, after all. Whether they are poor and in need of a meal, or whether they are powerful and on the TV news, they're regular people. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we are all connected. We are all God's children and members of the same family. And all of us in God's family, no matter our earthly means, have the ability to help and to inspire others around us.